Welcome to Distancify Weekly, the show where we talk e-commerce and the technology behind it.
Yes.
What should we talk about today?
We are going to talk about the Apple event. Yes, the Apple event.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. The Apple event,
Yeah, which you watched.
The 2-hour Snoozefest.
Yeah, you watched it.
Actually, I wouldn't call it Snoozefest. I want to call it Cringe Fest. The thing is that I watched it late last night, and I watched it on YouTube after the fact, so I didn't watch the live stream. You know what I was thinking while I was watching it?
No.
I was thinking, why doesn't YouTube have a ×3 playback speed up? Because I was only watching it in double speed, and I wanted to watch it in triple speed.
Oh, so it felt like a regular speed when you watched it in twice speed.
Well, it was
on YouTube.
They did talk fast, but they didn't. They did there was a lot of talking and a lot of not so much substance, but a lot of words.
Was the usual thing. They let's show this feature and that no one cares about for 5 minutes now, where we made this super slow video about it.
Yeah,
and then we invite someone else to talk even more about this thing that we don't care about.
Yeah, it was actually, that was the whole thing. Tim, he was barely not in it. He was just, hello, let me introduce you to this guy. And that, someone came up and talked about some feature, and then he went off stage, and then let me introduce you to, Tim came back, and he just introduced people. He didn't really say anything. When he did say something, it was basically, I don't know, maybe he doesn't know that many words, but the most words that he said was amazing, best ever, unlike anything.
Yeah, it's usually also faster. The fastest ship we ever made.
Yeah, and I mean, it's embarrassing at this point, because when he say, this is unlike anything that you have ever seen before, I was like, yeah, well, we've actually seen that before. Android devices have had it for 5 years now.
Yeah.
So it was a bit embarrassing, actually. And I don't know what they feed or what they put in the water, but everybody is applauding everything.
But I thought about something when you said they say we have something new that you haven't seen before. Isn't that what you expect when you show something that's new? Do you even need to say that? The thing is that the whole setting, the Steve Jobs theater, and the lighting and the smooth animations that they made for this one particular event, everything is like set up to get your mind blown, and then they go on stage and they show you Frogger, the game. Like, so Frogger was in the
so arcade. Let's start with arcade. Let's go through the.
Yeah, but I want to. I want to, because when you sent me the message that we are going to talk about this,
yes,
I didn't know that there was an event, or that it was going to be an event or something, because I live under a rock.
Yeah.
And so I Googled it using my favorite unnamed search engine, and found what it was about. And the funny thing is that when I search it, I get news, and then I get news in Swedish, because that's where we live. So I clicked on those first, because I was doing this the proper way, as if I was just a regular Swede Googling the event. And the articles, the 2 Swedish articles that I read, they only talked about the event being uneventful, because it only contains stuff that we already knew due to rumors.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing is that they, in the article, did not say what the rumors said. They just say that it's the specs that we already know from rumors, and I don't know what the rumors said. Okay. So the articles did not really say anything.
I didn't know. I don't actually know what the rumors said either, but I guess they said everything that they said.
Yeah, and the names.
And that's also another point. We are seeing these press conferences now. They're so regular. We know when they will happen. We know what they will say, beforehand. So like there's no element of surprise. The only time they actually have something surprising is when they announce a feature that is so uninteresting in and of itself that maybe there was a rumor but nobody cared, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what? Because I have the most limited experience or knowledge of
You
this
did
event.
not watch it.
No,
Yeah.
no. I only read like 2 Swedish articles, and then I read one on The Verge, and also skimmed through the bullets on Apple.
Yep.
I want to give a
Media
perspective
yeah.
from a person who only reads media and not go to the source. So I didn't really want to watch the list on Apple because they contained everything. But so I just started looking at that, and then I felt this was not the right thing I should look at. So I went back to the media because that's the vantage point that I wanted to have. And from my experience, we have new iPhone names, and we have a bigger iPad next time. We have like the normal iPad becomes 10.2 inches instead of 9.7 or something like that. And we also have multiple cameras.
Yeah, so I want to get
and
to
that's what we have.
Yeah, actually, I don't have much to add to that list, unfortunately. But I want to just walk through so we don't miss out any important feature, right? All of them. So they started out with announcing this revolutionary idea of subscribing to games.
Oh, yeah. I also read about Apple TV subscriptions.
No. This
and the Apple Arcade.
Yeah, the Apple Arcade.
For $59.
$4.99.
Okay, so.
Yeah, dollars a month. Now, they said, this is unlike anything you've ever seen before. And I was like, didn't Origin do that for like 3 years ago or something?
Or Google has been pushing their platform for a while now.
Yeah, we've heard of Stadia for a while, and it's about to go live, I guess, next year, maybe in the spring.
I don't know, but they're pushing it.
Yeah. Exactly. The latest rumor says that it will not be live yet. Anyway, so but Tim, I think he actually said, now don't quote me on this, but I think he literally said, this is unlike anything that you've ever seen before. And I was like, you're so delusional, dude.
I just want to... We have a Shield TV at home.
Yeah.
And we got a Shield controller with that. And we also got the NVIDIA game subscription thing.
Oh, they have it too.
Yeah,
everybody
so you stream the games from NVIDIA.
Okay, in this case, what they do is that you run the game as usual on your device. The only difference is that you don't have to pay to download the game.
Oh, okay.
It's free as long as you pay for the subscription. So it's just a different way of paying for games. Now, here again, they're not really talking that much about the platform itself, but they're bringing up on stage some classic game developers that we would know, like Capcom, Konami. Maybe there was some that I didn't quite know because I'm probably too old, but there was some third game developer as well. And Konami goes on stage and they they show you Frogger, a new version of Frogger, where there was like the graphics was pretty cool, but the game design, the gaming element of it was just Frogger. You were jumping from one platform to another platform, and it was things sliding across.
Yeah, but they
so
had
to time it, and then there was some baby coming in and ruining everything. It's like that was kind of cool, but that was just
was that using
element.
the biometric chip somehow? Because I saw a note on the Apple website where I watched, where I checked for a little while, that they had that the biometric chip could be used for some games in somehow. I don't know.
I don't think it's used for Frogger, but and then Capcom I think came on and showed. I can't even remember what it was.
Street Fighter.
No, it was not Street Fighter, but it was
Resident Evil.
It was another take on a classic platformer that I can't even remember what it was now.
Okay.
But it was very, very unrevolutionizing Anyway, so that was arcade, and then they went on to talk a little bit about TV, Apple TV Plus, which was like Netflix.
Yeah.
And again, unlike anything we've ever seen before, totally new. But it was just a subscription service for watching their exclusive content.
Yeah,
like Netflix. But it was $4.99, so it's probably a bit cheaper than Netflix.
And you get 1 year subscription if you buy a new iPad, iPhone, or an Apple TV.
Yeah, just buy an iPhone Pro for like
do you think
$1,200 and you get.
Now that I just said
that,
do you think that we will get Apple sponsorship for this podcast?
I don't think we will. Maybe we will, because we're talking so much about
Apple
them. Yeah,
promoted.
Anyway, so that was, and it was $4.99 too. But there was no talk about bundling the services together or something like that. It was just, I guess you're paying $4.99 for the video stream and then $4.99 for the arcade, so you can watch, their exclusive content and play.
Those two together comes out as the same price as Netflix, if that is not lower priced initially and they raise it later.
Yeah, they will definitely raise it later.
Yeah, and then
it's the same. Okay. I just want to lure you in first. Anyway, I don't have a grudge with Apple, because I might come off like that.
You have an iPhone.
I have an iPhone.
Yes.
I like my iPad. It's totally fine. I would never use a Mac, but that basically due to their low quality and Mac OS. But, iPads and iPhones are great.
I love the quality in the keyboard of the MacBook Pro from 2013 that I have at home.
Yeah, but you don't have a new Mac.
No, I don't like them.
Exactly.
I like that one. I would not.
They used to be good, but now they're not.
I sometimes think, I should buy a new Mac because it's nice, but then I look at the keyboards and I can't buy one because there is none.
So, but what is so disappointing is to see this company who's been able to do great innovation in the past just totally losing it. But maybe they realize it, but it's like the emperor's new clothing or something, because we can all see you, Tim, and you don't have anything new, but you're still talking as if you're revolutionizing the world with launching another Netflix-like service. And that's very, very... That's what I'm saying when it's embarrassing. It's like, I don't mind. Sure, launch your service. I won't probably not use it.
But don't you get or maybe evolution for a while, and then you get a revolution again?
Maybe,
so they are in the evolution phase now, and has been for a while.
Let's just talk quickly, how do you define innovation? Because I think there's a difference between everyone. Like, everybody have their new invention, is that innovation? Let me tell you what I think when I say innovation. So innovation is taking two ideas and putting them together in a way that nobody has thought about before. That's basically inventing a new idea, because all ideas are based on previous ideas. Like, there's no profound, unique, standalone ideas. Like, it's all comes from something before.
Yeah.
And that's what Apple was so great at during the Steve Jobs era, because they took innovations that was already basically on the market, but they put it together in a way that nobody had thought about. So they didn't invent touch screens. They didn't invent phones. They didn't invent nothing in particular that was powering the iPhone, but they put it together in a way that nobody had thought about doing. What they used to do was that they took this idea that everybody kind of knew about, and they took this idea that everybody kind of knew about, and they put it together and they created something new. Now what they're doing is they're taking this idea that everybody knows about, Netflix, and they're doing an exact clone of it. They're taking smartwatch and making an exact clone of it. They're taking their own previous models and just, doing a one-to-one. Let's do it a little bit better in every aspect, but they're not bringing in anything new to table, essentially. And so that's what I think is lacking. And they're also bloating their whole. They're spreading themselves very thin. So when they came on and talked about the iPad, I didn't even like realize that the screen was like 0.2 inches larger. I think a user might actually notice either. But that is like that's such a non-event.
I mean, it's a big event because all the accessories that you bought.
Oh yeah, they would be.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Belkin is laughing all the way to the bank.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like they could just send out a press release saying, "Oh, here's the new iPad. It's 0.3 inches bigger or something like that." And it supports the pen, and but like it would have been surprising if it didn't support the pen.
Yeah, but if they did that, they would be stupid because then we would not talk about them now.
Yeah.
And no one where I read would have said anything either. So.
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, I think this was a they should just continue doing what they are doing. But then they could add a sprinkle a little bit of
that in the long run,
on top of it.
I think in the long run, what they're doing now is that they're just the brand is keeping it, they're keeping it, in top of mind of people, but it's starting to rot from within. Yeah, it's deteriorating from within. So it becomes just this shell of former successes, but they're not really able to do it. And it's like almost that they're a little bit scared to do, because they have all their eyes on them and they're not crazy enough to really go at it and launch something crazy at this point. Because, it's a long way down from where they are. Anyway, when they talked about the iPad, it seems to talk about iPad OS, which I didn't really get. It's like iOS, but with a slightly improved interface, which is nice because let's face it, the old interface, especially when you're working with your apps, is horrendous for an iPad. It's like there's so much untapped potential in the device that is limited by iOS not being able to like multitask and stuff like that. But they're getting there. But so that's good.
You can't multitask. You can't drag out and have two apps at the same time.
You can that now in the new iPad OS.
Yeah, but I thought you can. But maybe we only do that on the Android.
I don't know. Maybe I can do it. I haven't. That's another thing with iOS. It's so intuitive that you
don't know.
You don't know how to do things. Let's move on. The next thing they wanted to bring up, because it's very, very predictable, sort of like they took each product one by one. They didn't talk about any Mac device, I think, but we've already established.
Not a new MacBook Pro keyboard?
The MacBook is dead. Just deal with it.
MacBook Pro keyboard. Or a MacBook Air keyboard. I'll take any small MacBook with a good keyboard.
The watch. I want to talk about the Apple Watch.
Yes.
So this was actually now it comes back to when I talked about innovation being taking one idea or two ideas, putting them together in a new way. I think that is the definition of an application. I tend to divide people and businesses into: are you an application developer or are you a platform developer? And Apple's been really great as an application developer, and they've been not so great at a platform developer. They've been successful in the terms of, iTunes was used a lot, but it was never a great service. But it was, so yeah, you have to define success. But I get the sense through all of this presentation, they are seeing themselves as a platform company. And they're really not. Maybe they are that now, but they're not good at it. Because
they have a full platform behind their thing. Behind.
Yeah, but it's like Nintendo back in the 80s and 90s. It's like they had a good platform, but what they were really good at was making games. And then they thought they were a platform developer. So for 10 years, they started to create bad consoles, and Sony was much better at that.
I'm just saying that if you're Apple, if you're saying iTunes and you say something about success there, I think as the whole app store is up on top of iTunes because you upload your apps to iTunes Connect.
Yeah, but there's nothing.
And then you have cloud. You have you
I
can
mean,
deploy
and that's
your
what I-
server
that's-
side things
that's
to
what I'm-
Apple and let
I
them
mean-
run it, and you have everything stored in
Yes,
at
they,
Apple
they
for
may,
Apple developers.
they are in fact a platform developer, and they're starting to identify themselves as that, which means that they're not doing any great applications anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where they were revolutionary, because the iPhone was basically just it wasn't even thought of as a platform when they did it. They didn't even have App Store when they launched it. That was like pointed out to them after their first release or first announcement. Like, why don't you let people install apps on your iPhone? And they were like, yeah, maybe we should do that. But ultimately it was their device. It was one application. The whole iPhone was an application, and that was what made it so good and so revolutionary. Because if they had gone about it thinking, now we're going to create the best phone platform, they would have copied Nokia, which was the biggest platform at the time. And Nokia couldn't do any good apps. They could do Snake, and that was about it. And that's where I think Apple is starting to lose it. And you could tell during the presentation because they didn't really say anything about themselves. They just brought on other people to promote their platform. So they brought on these game developers to promote arcade. Well, they basically talked about Apple TV Plus by showing some trailers of some content that they're gonna send, and then when it come to the watch, it was all about the health platform and how they did research. They took data from the watch to feed into research, and there was this interview with a couple of people who had their lives saved due to heart disease detection based on your heart, BPM and stuff like that. And so they just let other people talk about their platform. And that's also a tell that they are not seeing themselves as application developers anymore.
And it makes sense because that's also what the media said. Not what you're saying, but if you listen to what you're saying, and they wrote that this event that we watched, the iPhone event in September, is usually the one that contains all the meat. But this time it was in the WWDC, the developer conference. That's where the meat was this time.
Yeah.
And that's because they are shifting towards
becoming a platform.
Yes.
Only.
Yeah, and then they lean on the developers to make something good.
Maybe it will work, but it's a different ball game because when they're going on the platform side, they're up against Microsoft and Google and Netflix and Amazon, and it's a whole different. Well, on the application side, they were pretty much alone. It's going to be interesting to see how it lands. But I want to talk about the watch. They pushed this fact. They launched a new watch, but the only thing they talked about was that it all these health parameters. And I have a Garmin watch, and I use it primarily to check my sleeping patterns. But an Apple Watch only have 18 hours of battery, so you can't have it on you when you're sleeping. And I think, for me to gauge my own health, what I want is a device that measures how I act when I'm unconscious sleeping. Like that's the only time of the day.
You should probably just wear your Apple Watch at night.
Yeah,
you,
and
you
not
charge
during
it
the
during
day.
the day and then you sleep. But how long do you need to charge it for to get the 8 hours?
Maybe
18 hours,
yeah,
I mean.
I have no idea.
So maybe you can charge it and then go to bed.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing. I should probably get one and try it out. But I'm just not convinced. Anyway, the only feature that they really promoted was this always on display, and that was actually a surprise to me because I thought they already had that.
Yeah, yeah, and you still get the same wonderful
18 hours of battery. Yeah. I
think it's a feat, but it's not.
I mean, of course, it took some engineering to do that, and they talked about doing one screen update per second or something. I guess it's because they could show a second counter or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that was the surprise that I had. So that brings us on to the last segment, actually the longest segment, the iCamera 11 Pro and the regular iCamera 11. I mean iPhone.
But there is a Max Pro Max also, right?
I don't know. Yeah, there was a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
at
there
this
are
point,
two
I can't keep
versions.
up with all the devices.
No.
It used to be easy, but now I have to like take a degree in Apple devices to keep up with all
Apple
the...
should probably study its own history to see what they did when they had too many devices.
Exactly. Yeah, so they talked about, I think, I tried to keep count, but they would talked about 20 to 25 minutes straight, or even more, about the camera. That, the different types of cameras, because on the regular iPhone 11 they have two cameras, one which is a wide angle lens and one more regular lens, and then they use these both together to make great photographs. And then on the Pro they've added a third one, and I mean that's cool, but again they didn't really show it off very much.
So you didn't get to see any pictures?
Yeah,
or video
you
footage?
absolutely did. But they brought in these filmmakers to talk about the iPhone and the camera. Well, it looked great, I must say. I mean, but I think Huawei and Samsung's been doing dual and even triple cameras for a while now. But again, according to Tim, this was unlike anything you've ever seen before.
On an iPhone.
On an iPhone. Yeah, that's what he has to add. Like maybe
I think he
maybe
says
it's his
it under his
lawyers.
breath. I mean, at the end of every sentence, it's like, on an iPhone. And then he can feel good about it.
His lawyers sits down in the front row of the audience, like, don't forget to mention that it's just the iPhone, so we don't get sued. Anyway, so that was cool. One thing that they did not mention, but I'm a little bit curious about, is that because they're making this out to be like a pro camera, you can use this instead of any camera device that you ever done. Like if you're a photographer, you can throw away all your cameras and just use the iPhone 11 Pro, iPhone 11 Pro. Now
I would just call it iPhone X plus one.
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, really. I mean, it's just you. Anyway, so they one thing that I was curious about was heat, because a lot of these high-end phones that are recording in 4K, they overheat, so they have to shut off the filming after a while. And so if like this thing we're filming this podcast would not be possible to do on a phone regular.
Yeah,
generally.
because we tried that.
Yeah, we tried that and it stopped.
Yeah, and we didn't notice it stopped. So
yeah, so I think I'm curious, how do they solve that problem? Have they solved it, or are they just like hope that nobody notice?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if we can film more than 10 minutes or something.
Yeah,
if they have any limit.
If you can put it on for like an hour and just be recording, then we're talking. Then it was really impressive. Because it was pretty good, or really good quality, and they used this. And then the other thing that he talked about is this, A13 Bionic super chip, or maybe it was 12. I don't know.
A13.
A13, yeah.
Yes.
And how it's incredible for machine learning applications. So they use machine learning to stitch multiple images together to make them super sharp. And to get a wider dynamic range.
So it's not high anymore, it's wide, super high dynamic range.
Maybe it's XDR, extreme dynamic range, or something like that. I don't know.
Something cool.
But it's like an evolution of HDR. I'm for it, but I don't know who the target audience is, because the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 11 Pro, they don't differ that much in pricing. So who's gonna buy the iPhone 11? Like, because if you're wanting that camera, you're gonna go for the Pro.
Yeah,
but
maybe
if you just want a phone, you have to,
Maybe it's smaller. if they are the same price or something.
I don't know. We'll see. iPhone sales are dropping. People are not changing their devices, and the iPhone 11 is not gonna change that. Maybe it will just keep in the same trend as it is up to this point.
Yeah, maybe it's just an price anchor.
Yeah, to make the Pro version seem cheaper. Yeah. I don't know. This has been another episode of Distancify Weekly. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get the podcasts. And please make sure to subscribe anywhere. And if you need to come in contact with us, you can email us at podcast@distancify.com. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, we want comments everywhere.
Yeah. Unless you're a troll.
Yeah, but then we want your comments anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.
Have fun.